Today I'm going to be sharing what I meal prepped for my family for the upcoming week. I'm also going to just be talking about how I prepare for these meal prep days in order to keep them short and not overwhelming. That way I do them more consistently. If this is your first time here, my name is Haley. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 3 little boys. We are a homeschooling family, so I homeschool my oldest 2 boys, and that is primarily the type of content that I share on this channel. I like to share homemaking content, just practical videos like this one that I have for you today with easy recipes. But I also enjoy talking about homeschool curriculum and schedules and planning and all of those things. So if that interests you, I would love for you to subscribe and hang out. But today's video is focused on meal prepping, or I sometimes call it a kitchen reset. But basically, I'm just going to be batch cooking a few different things for my family for our upcoming homeschool week. So I don't prep for the entire week. I've talked about this in all of my previous videos that are similar to this, but I really just cook something for breakfast, a snack, and then a couple of different lunch items. So the first thing that I'm getting started on here is some chocolate bread is what the recipe calls it. It's really just a chocolate cake, but I love to make it because you can mix it just in one bowl and then pour it into a loaf pan and bake it. It's got chocolate chips in it, so yummy. And as always, I'll put the recipe links down in the description. But like I was saying at the beginning of this video, I also want to share what I do in advance to prepare for these meal prep days. Whenever I go to do these days, I usually have about an hour and a half to do everything. That includes cleaning my kitchen up. So I really have to be intentional about preparing ahead of time. There was a time in my life where I could decide on a whim that I wanted to meal prep for myself and my husband. I could make a list. We could go grocery shopping. I could come home, do the meal prep, clean the kitchen up. That was a different time. Now it takes a lot of planning up front for me if I want this day to go quickly. So even though this is all condensed down into, a 10-minute video, usually I am coming up with these meal ideas the week ahead so that I can go ahead and get my grocery list made. I can get my groceries picked up, and I can even start to prepare some of the ingredients ahead of time. Those are things that are happening way ahead of me actually cooking. If I wait until the day of when I need to actually cook the recipes to try to figure out exactly what I want to make, I usually end up way too overwhelmed. I end up stressed out, and I would rather just not do this. I'm trying to figure out what recipes I can make based on what ingredients I have, what things my kids will eat, things my kids don't like, all while my kids are still running around with me. And then I have to get in there and cook, and then I have to get in there and clean, and I would just rather not do it. So I take the time. Usually once a week, myself and my husband sit down and we come up with a plan for the week. And in my plans, I make sure to write in a day to meal plan, to order my groceries, and then I write in another day when I'm actually going to do the cooking and get all of the meals ready. So that's the first major thing, is just being prepared ahead of time, not trying to do it all in one day. I also, whenever I'm selecting recipes, I'm usually using easy recipes. And I've mentioned this before, but I like to use recipes that I can utilize separate appliances in my kitchen for. So I don't want to make everything that has to bake, and I don't want to make everything that needs to go on the stove top. I would rather do some things in the oven and then some things on the stove top. Sometimes I use my Instant Pot. And then on top of that, I usually try to make a quick note of what order I'm going to make the meals in. So like this day, I'm making this chocolate bread first. That way it can be in the oven because it had the longest bake time. It needed 45 minutes. So I went ahead and I got it started in the oven, and I'm going to make my next dish, which is a Mexican casserole, which you see me getting started on here by browning the ground meat. It will go into the oven as well to finish baking with the cheese on top. And then I can move on to some things on the stove top. Okay, so like I said, this is a Mexican casserole. I didn't really follow a recipe for it. Basically, I browned some ground beef in a skillet. I seasoned it with taco type seasonings. Then I added in some salsa and some water, some black beans that I had left over in the fridge, and some shredded cheese. And I just stirred that all together until that cheese melted inside of it. And then I crushed some tortilla chips in a baking dish, poured that mixture on top, topped it with a little bit more shredded cheese, and baked it until the cheese was melted on top. That's it. This was delicious, actually. We ate it with sour cream, jalapenos, avocado. Good. We love Tex-Mex type food. So one of the other parts of meal prepping that can get overwhelming is the cleanup afterwards. So I am a clean as I go type of person. So I will use a baking pan or a dish, and then I will turn around and I will wash it before I move on to the next recipe. And then I'll use that same skillet over again, or that same mixing bowl, whatever. I do not let my pots and pans just pile up while I'm cooking. This way, if I do that, if I get to the end of cooking everything and the kids are really needing me or whatever, and I need to walk out of the kitchen, at least I don't have all of the pots and pans dirty. I'll just have like that last skillet that I used. And I'll always make sure that my dishwasher is empty and ready for whatever I need to put in there. So like I said, if I have some pots and pans left at the end that I didn't get to wash, then dishwasher is ready for all of that to go in there. I also mentioned that I will oftentimes chop up extra vegetables early during the week while I am like cooking our dinners and things like that before I come to this day where I'm planning to meal prep. So I've already got my groceries earlier in the week. So I've been cooking dinner and I've had plenty of time to do things like chop onions and bell peppers. We chopped them, I put them in the freezer. And then I also was able to go ahead and shred my cheese and have that ready. If there was anything else that I needed to chop or thaw in order to cook, I have plenty of time earlier in the week to get that all done before this meal prep day comes up. So what I'm getting ready to make now are some protein-packed breakfast biscuits. I've shared a breakfast biscuit recipe on here a few different times. This one was different. This one has some sauteed onion, red bell pepper, green bell pepper, and some ground chicken in it. They were okay. They weren't as good as I was hoping. So I'm going to try the recipe again. The biscuits came out kind of tough. They look delicious, which you'll see here in a little bit. But I'm going to try the recipe again. I'm not ready to give up on it. And in this pot, I am making some kale, sweet potatoes, smoked sausage, cooking that all down together. I also put some of those frozen bell peppers and onions that I had in there. The last thing that I'm going to share about how I make these days easier is that I'm not ashamed to use some frozen ingredients when it makes sense. So if I can buy some frozen vegetables that are already ready for me to just use, and I don't have to do any type of washing or chopping or peeling or anything like that, I'm going to do it, especially if it makes sense for my budget. So things like these bags of frozen sweet potatoes cut down on the time that I have to spend washing and then peeling and then chopping into little bitty cubes a bunch of sweet potatoes. And I think these sweet potatoes were very reasonably priced. And then also, if I don't get around to doing a day like this, they're in the freezer. I don't have to worry about them going bad. Don't be ashamed to buy some convenience type items like that if it's not going against like your health preferences. Frozen vegetables are just so easy to substitute. So that's it for today, y'all. This is what everything looked like whenever it got done. Don't those biscuits look good? I wish they wouldn't have been so tough. But thank y'all for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time.